Guys, this is Miss Lane, fourth graders. Today I'm going to share with you one of my favorite books that we're going to be talking about for our social studies class, and that is Soft Rain, a story of the Cherokee Trail of Tears. And this story is told through the eyes of Soft Rain when the Cherokees had to relocate from North Carolina to Oklahoma. And it's one of the saddest chapters in our nation's history and one of the saddest chapters in our state history as well. This is a personal story to me because, like many of you, I have Cherokee ancestry in my family. And actually, I can't remember how many greats back, but great something was Elizabeth Pocahontas Payne, and she, during the Trail of Tears, the time of when they, I guess, evicted them, was married to her husband was Payne, I think, and I can't remember his first name, but he was a white farmer and she was Cherokee, and they moved to the mountains of North Carolina to avoid her having to go to the Cherokee Trail of Tears to Oklahoma. So I'm going to start. The story starts off in school, and they're in a Cherokee school, and it starts off with the teacher receiving a sad letter. So this is chapter 1, a sad letter. Hooray! Hurry, pet, hurry, Soft Rain called. I might have to turn on some lights here. Soft Rain called, running into the cabin with Puppy at her heels. Grandmother, tell me a story before I go to school, she whispered. Picking up the small, wiggly dog, she knelt beside Grandmother's rocking chair. There is no time for your story this morning, Mother chided. You know you stayed outside playing with Pet too long. You should have come at once when I called. She handed Soft Rain her deerskin pouch. Here is your food. Holding the pouch close to her nose, Soft Rain sniffed. Fresh cornbread. Father and I will have our cornbread in the field, Hawk Boy said, bragging. I am helping today. Soft Rain laughed. If that is true, my little brother, you had better stop talking and get to work. Hawk Boy jumped up, nearly knocking over the kerosene lamp. Though 3 years younger, he stood tall beside his 9-year-old sister. Soft Rain was surprised to see that the top of his head was even with her shoulder. All that food you eat makes you grow, she said, patting his plump stomach. Still chewing, Hawk Boy nodded, swallowed, gave Grandmother a hug, took the cloth-wrapped package from Mother, and scurried out the door. Don't eat on the way, Soft Rain called after him. Hawk Boy waved as the sound of his laughter faded. After the New Moon Festival, Hawk Boy will go to school with you, Grandmother said. I will miss his smiling face just as I miss yours. You can't see his face, Grandmother, Soft Rain said, looking at the old woman's clouded eyes. I can hear his laughter and imagine the joy in him. I will like having my little brother walk the long way with me. I can tell him stories. Soft Rain brushed a crumb off Grandmother's face and kissed her. But you must go before the Moon Festival, Mother warned, and everybody laughed. Soft Rain ran down the mountain road toward town and the teacher's house that was the school for the Tuskegee boys and girls. Along the narrow path she looked for the early spring flowers, but she saw none. A squirrel ran up an oak tree, fussing at her for disturbing him. The path grew wider as she neared the edge of town. When she walked past the schoolhouse of the white children, she heard singing. She was relieved to have missed seeing the white boys. The day before, they had taunted her, running in circles around her, making ugly faces, pulling on her braids, and yelling, Cherokee, Cherokee, their strange way of saying Tuskegee. Climbing the 3 steps to the porch of the teacher's house, Soft Rain called, Siru, see you, hello. Come in, Soft Rain. You are almost late again, the teacher said. Were you listening to stories or looking for flowers? Before answering, Soft Rain stared at the teacher's beautiful beaded deerskin dress. Why was she wearing her festival dress to school? I played too long with Pet. There wasn't any flowers, Soft Rain said. She sat on the floor next to the Little John, who was named for the principal chief of the Cherokee. She liked hearing Little John because he reminded her of Hawk Boy, always trying to be taller. I was named for John Ross, the chief of the real people, but I will be much bigger, he always said, stretching himself as tall as possible. The teacher handed Soft Rain the pages from the Sequoia writing. Talking leaves, her father called them. When I was your age, he had often told her, our language was only spoken. Then Sequoia made the sounds into symbols that you can now read. Together the boys and girls named Bible verses from Sequoia's pages. Then Little John and Soft Rain, who were the oldest, each read a verse alone. Your reading is excellent as usual, the teacher stammered. She wiped at her eyes. The younger children looked at each other and began whispering, the teacher is crying. We won't read the white man's book today because I have something I must tell you, the teacher said, holding a piece of paper. Her hand trembled. You look sad. Will it make us cry? Little John asked. It is very sad. It is a letter from the white man who called himself the superintendent of Cherokee removal. Friends, he calls us. He tells us that the treaty signed 2 years ago by some of our people will soon be enforced in Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, as well as here in North Carolina. He says that on the 23rd of May of the year 1838, the Cherokees must remove to the lands set apart for them in the West. The teacher sighed, then continued, my family has decided to leave before we are forced from our home. If it isn't too late, we will sell our house to a white family. Children, there will be no more school for you here, maybe in the West. Soft Rain saw tears fall onto the white man's letter. She felt her anger growing. If she were holding the letter, she would rip it into little pieces. No more school. The Cherokee must move west. Why? The teacher did not answer. Soft Rain's unspoken question, she merely whispered a goodbye to each child. She handed the white man's word books to Soft Rain and Little John. You must keep reading, she said. As Soft Rain passed the white children's school, she began to cry. It isn't fair that those mean boys can go to school and we can't, she said to Little John, sobbing. Why is the teacher moving? I don't know, but my father says only a few of our people signed that treaty. They are the ones who should move. We aren't moving. Father is getting ready to plant our silu, our corn. I'm going to help him. He never wanted me to learn the white man's ways of his words. Now I'll stop. I won't need this old book. Aye, Soft Rain screamed as Little John threw the word book toward the schoolhouse and ran away. She started to go after the book, but when she saw a face at the window, she hesitated. Then she tore after Little John, only stopping when she had no more breath. She looked all around, but Little John was nowhere in sight. She was puzzled. The teacher who knew the language of the white man said to keep reading, and she was going west because the letter said she must. But Little John's father didn't want him to learn the white man's ways. He was not moving west, he was planting. Would Soft Rain's family have to move west? Then she thought about her father and Hawk Boy at work in their field. Relieved, she let out a deep breath. If Father was planting, they wouldn't be moving west either. I will help Father and I will continue my reading, she said to herself, putting the word book into her pouch, and she hurried home. Okay, let's talk about a few things. One thing was that it said that her grandmother's eyes were cloudy, and that Soft Rain says you can't see Hawk Boy, and she says I can hear her laughter and imagine the joy in him. So from those context clues, we understand that grandmother is blind. And then I don't really know how to pronounce this. I think it's Tuskegee that they call themselves. And but whenever I see that word, I'm just going to say Cherokee because Cherokee is much easier for me to pronounce. And Tuskegee is the way that the Cherokee said their name. Okay, and then Sequoyah, and you've probably studied about him before in some of your earlier classes. He was the person who actually wrote a Cherokee alphabet, and we'll be doing an activity with that later on. You can see I've read this book many, many, many times by Cornelia Cornelissen. It is very worn. The pages are torn, coming apart. But it's just such a wonderful book and such an important part of our history. And here's a map. And I don't know if you can see that, but they walked all the way from North Carolina to Oklahoma. And we'll talk more about it later, but can you imagine walking that far? Can you even imagine walking from your home to school without any shoes on? How difficult that would be. And they walked much, much, much further than that. So it's a true event. It happened in our history in the 1838 right here in North Carolina. We have a whole county named a whole area in North Carolina. If you've ever been there, Cherokee, they still have, I haven't been in a long time, but, they still have things. Well, I'll just stop right there. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.